Hi. So in today's video, I wanted to tell you more about my encounters with nine clergymen, with priests, Catholic priests, and with nuns. And I'll be telling you about my personal encounters uh, with that specific group uh, in Tarnów. But that doesn't mean that I refer to entire group all over the world. Okay, so it starts with going to Oasis with my best friend, and we were the only two folks who went for free and didn't pay for 7 days of staying in Rzegesty. So we went as girls from poor families, and basically she organized it for me, and she made it possible for me to go with her. And there were two events I remember very well from that oasis. So I remember, one of the girls was actually angry with the priest because he was almost never there with us. So he was always just sitting in his room, and if we managed to talk to him, then it was during their meals, during their breakfast, for example. So Carolina would complain that the priest was supposed to be for everyone. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm just navigating the lights, by the way. So she was complaining that the priest should be for everyone, and she even called her parents during maybe the third or the fourth day of Oasis, and she got back home faster because she was angry with the priest. And the truth is, yeah, he didn't pay too much attention to us. And one time I was sitting in his room with my best friend and with probably some other girl too. And he didn't pay attention to us. He was just sitting on his computer, and we were sitting quietly. And after a while, he turned the computer and showed us that he was looking at us on the computer's camera. And for me, that was very weird because my mind started to work like I started to wonder what facial expressions I made, and if I looked weird, if I was looking at him, if I was looking at my best friend, and if he knew what I was looking. Not just like, naturally in a conversation, you just will look at those people. But when there's silence in the room, then you just don't know what to do. For me, it was very weird. But as you see, in the entire book, Piglet, you will see that there was a significant part of my life when it comes to camera and taking those naked photos. That actually was the starting point when I started to try and express myself slowly, step by step. So yeah, but it was also the naked photos made me actually run from one job to the second, and from the second to the third. So it was difficult at the very beginning. And therefore I just believe that he was just checking camera and computer in my life in Akashic Records. And there was one more event, because there were 9 clergymen who took part in Oasis with us, and we were like 15 years old girls, and they were much older, like at least 20 years old boys. One of them had a nickname, Banana, which is a very symbolic nickname, and it's a nickname that one of my uncles had too. So as usual, I don't think such a nickname is just a coincidence. And we were supposed to conduct humorous evenings, and during those evenings we were supposed to present some games. So sometimes clergymen would organize those evenings, and sometimes girls would organize those evenings. And when the clergymen did so, they asked us to wear skirts, which was suspicious. We're supposed to wear skirts, and they asked us, six of us, or five of us, to they asked us to leave, and then there was an entire circle of people sitting in a circle, and then there was a towel in the middle of the circle, and I was the first one to go through the activity, and they just blindfolded me, and they asked me to walk through the towel so that I would not touch the towel. So I had to just spread my legs and walk through the towel without seeing it and without touching it. And I did so. And then when I took the shawl of my eyes, I saw the clergyman called Banana lying on that towel with the camera by his eyes. So, I was 15 years old girl, and I was a little bit shocked, speechless, and I just couldn't fathom how is it possible that, first of all, clergymen thought up such an activity for us when we were younger. We were girls, they were clergymen. And how is it possible that everybody else, agreed to that, and nobody was just, reacting, asking questions, just reacting? So I was shocked, because it looked like as if I walked through the towel and he took photos of my vagina. And that day I had my period, so a sure thing, I had my sanitary pad, and in my mind I was going over, the time, when was the last time I changed the sanitary pad, so that gives you an extra stress and shame. And just with the second girl, when she went through that towel, I saw that they were just pretending that he was lying on the towel, but he was not. So after she came through the towel, he lied on it quickly, and then she took the blind off, and then she saw him as if he was taking photos of her too, but he wasn't. So that girl ended up crying in the toilet, and the game was over. So actually only two of us experienced it, which kind of makes me believe that the game was just for me. But okay, because it's a repetitive story in my life. When somebody sees me through the window and I have my, I just go to grab the towel, and somebody sees me in the swimming pool when I jump and my swimsuit moves to the side, or when I sleep in Rhode Island, then my pants move to the side. I wake up in the morning, and then there's my flatmate with her boyfriend sleeping in the bed next to mine, and I'm like, what the heck? Yeah. So that would be my recurring story to be seen somehow, and that happened during religious oasis with 9 clergymen. And as you know, number 9 is also quite symbolic when it comes to occultists, because one of the clergymen just strongly reminded me of my best friend's husband. But I miss her, and I hope she's going to talk to me soon. And obviously there were other aspects of it. When I started to write the book and I wrote down that story, and I contacted Steve, who supposedly was my friend from a language school. We taught together there, and as I told him that story, I told him that story, and he told me, oh, one of my classmates experienced the very same thing. And he said, those fucking clergymen, he agrees with you, and he gives you even more references that it didn't happen only to you. So it's like diminishing what you experienced, because it wasn't only your experience. And it's the aspect of, monkeying, so to say, and mimicking what happened to you, which is not true. That I think it was made up. Okay. And there was one more aspect, during that oasis, there was one clergyman who supposedly liked me, but he even yelled at me and he was rude to me once. But when I visited him, when the oasis finished, I visited him in the monastery in Tarnów, and he said he would make remarks like, God sends him beautiful women. And, it looked like as if I wanted to, then I could derail a clergyman off his path. But I didn't want to. And I think it was checked in Variety. Such a plot and twist of event was checked on a variety of occasions, because we had a priest who liked my mom. It's we talked about it that way. Oh, he likes our mom, and he admires her, and he really appreciates her, and so on and so on. And then even extended family, there was a story that just a story. I think it was just made up. There was a story that one of my extended cousins would actually had a thing with the priest. I don't believe that. I think it was made up. Okay, and then I used to go to high school number 7, and there used to be a brother we called from Jesuiti brother. So it's a I'm not sure how does it work actually, but he's like a monk, but a Catholic monk, something like that, Jesuita. So he would give us, religious classes. I didn't have classes with him, but I went to a trip with him. There were a lot of guys from departments, the field of the field of science, like they would learn more about physics and maybe computers. So I went with that class and with that Jesuita brother, and we went to Lvov, and that was my trip to Ukraine. We saw a castle, and we saw Lvov, which resembled actually Krakow. Maybe it was even a bit more charming. And I remember a great market with a lot of paintbrushes. I bought one. And everything was much cheaper than in Poland. And I also remember a restaurant where actually we got salty water, but I do know that with covert hypnosis, you can influence how somebody experiences food, taste. You can experience their taste. You can influence their taste. You can influence their vision and their auditory system, their hearing too. So what I wanted to tell you about this Jesuita brother, sorry. There was a girl who had really big boobs, and she was really small, and the boys would approach her and tell her it just this much, Marzena, 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 Marzena. And she was very small, and she would have those red blushes on her face, and she would be a little bit ashamed by them, because it looked like they were just a little bit laughing, a little bit trying to flirt, but not knowing really how. And for me it was boring. I don't remember what precisely I said, but this Jesuita Catholic brother came around, and he paid attention to Marzena, and he joked that she's like a dream, because this is what her name indicates and means in Polish. And he would tease me, he would give me a remark saying that, nobody paid attention to me. And I was like, yeah, but, and this is what it is about. It's about attention. And I was totally bored with these people, because even if I wanted to join the conversation, there was no conversation, because there was just repeating. They would repeat Marzena, 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 and nobody would say anything. So there was nothing to join, actually. So yeah, I complained. And I think the man who was older than me, who should show some, social support, understanding, the needs of youth, could have been a little bit more understanding or not tease me in public. Yeah. And I also took part in a pilgrimage, also with my best friend. She also, showed me where to go, what to do, and how to get there. And we went together to the pilgrimage. And I love walking, but she belonged to a first aid group called Malta. And that group is trained in giving the first aid if there is a need. So therefore, they would have better houses for the night, and they would have houses that people in those houses would give them also some dinner. So she took me to that group, although probably against some probably it wasn't allowed. And I remember sitting in front of the priest, Andre Augustin, during the pilgrimage. We had a break, and I happened to sit next to him, and I was sitting and thinking about it. Oh, I'm in that group, and I'm not allowed to be in that group. And then the same, evening, he said there are people who didn't join their groups when it comes to housing and when it comes to staying for the night, and those people should go to their groups. So I felt guilty, and I had to change the group from the better one to my group. And I think it was cool because one time I happened to have the house with the swimming pool, and other time I happened to have I happened to sleep under the sky, so that was even better. So I like that a lot. And during that pilgrimage, I met Natalia, and Natalia has the very same surname that my uncle who married into my family. And the woman, I didn't know her, but Natalia was exceptionally beautiful. She had like golden hair and golden skin and blue eyes. He was really exceptional and a very nice body lines. And yeah, she was beautiful. And she stood staring at me in a pose of Wonder Woman. So I don't know how to read that. Like, on the one hand, it's like looks like a woman is ready to, come at you, but we didn't know each other. So I was like, oh, she can be cheeky too. So that was my first meeting with Natalia, with a very, very beautiful woman. And then years later, I used to live in a monastery with my best friend, just for a short moment. And I saw Natalia, but I didn't know it was her. So I saw a girl, all of a sudden, almost black hair. Yes, still blue eyes, but very, very plumpy, like somebody else, just like a different woman. And then I talked to my best friend, and she's like, that was Natalia. You remember what she looked like? And I'm like, yeah, she was something. She was exceptional. And I'm like, so what happened? Why did she change like that? And it turned out that, Natalia was sick with something that doctors didn't know how to help, didn't know what that was. And she stopped looking exceptionally beautiful. Um, and here's the unbelievable part. Because I write a lot about my appearance. I write a lot about how this appearance changed and in how many different ways it was affected. Because there was also a sculpture supposedly my friend made. And I also grew some hair on my face and so on. And I believe that, when it comes to occultism and witches, they can influence your appearance by changing your geometry. I'm just quoting Sadhguru here, but it's something about changing the geometry of your face. Yeah, because the sculpture that was made of me looked much older, and I told the sculpture, "Oh my God, you made me like 10 years older. I look older in this sculpture." So it's not the topic I would like to discuss in this particular video, but I believe those people influence other people's appearance in a worse way, and possibly the same thing gets back to them too. You know, so that was the pilgrimage, and then I started to go to a musical class by the church, and trust me, all of a sudden, when singing in the group, I was just pretending to sing because I was scared of singing. So I literally lost my voice. Like, it wasn't a solo after all. It was just singing in the group. But I was like, oh my! I was just opening my mouth and like a moron pretended that I was singing when I was not. So it's weird. And whenever we had those meetings of musical class, priest Andre Augustin used to start our meetings with the prayer, and he looks like, basically, when you look at him, he seems to be like this warm person, but when I looked at him, he would just as if he pretended not to see me. That was my impression. He pretended not to pay attention to me and not to see me. Which is not really something that I can fathom, because when you are older and when you are a priest, then you try equally spread attention. I'm telling to you from a perspective of a teacher, we try to treat everyone in an equal way. At least we try. And in my high school, we had a religious education with Mariusz Żuczek, the priest Mariusz Żuczek. And here's the thing, my class was very naughty. We were very rude, but I wasn't. I was just busy with doing maths homework, because we had 2 hours of religious education, one after the other. So he couldn't keep the order among us, so I couldn't listen to that, so I wanted to have my maths homework done. So I was doing maths, and I always felt very guilty that I was doing something else instead of listening to him, but there was nothing to listen to because he couldn't handle the class. And the thing is, instead of trying to keep us quiet, he would look at me, and at what I was doing this math, and he would look at Monica, my classmate, and that was pretty much it. Of course, in the meantime, there was attempts to manage the class and conduct the lesson, but my impression was that he strongly looked at me and looked at Monica and tried to, like, as if sustain this guilt in me that I was doing maths, but I wasn't disturbing him. Yes, I was doing maths homework. And our priest Mariusz Żuczek played us Emily Rose sound, and Emily Rose was possessed. And I think priest Mariusz Żuczek was perhaps checking something in my Akashic records with the woman who was possessed, like with my former boyfriend with his new girlfriend who was supposedly possessed. And then my sister also supposedly had a nanny who was possessed, but I think they were just checking if I would believe that I was possessed, but I didn't. Although there was a moment when, when I was like, oh, I have to go to the priest, and I have to ask priest to come around and make this place, sacred, just in case. Yeah. And priest Mariusz Żuczek, he looks like such a nice person, but he is actually gypsy, and he's a gypsy who's similar to a boyfriend that someone close to me dated. Okay, and then there was yet more encounter with the priest from Tarnów when I decided I wanted to go to Africa. Oh, I wanted to go to Africa, and I wanted to experience being around the tribe, and I wanted to see the jungle, not to live necessarily in the jungle, but to see the jungle. And then I met this priest because he used to go to Africa, and he was connected to, outings, trips, and volunteers that would go to foreign countries. So I asked specifically for Africa, and he told me that, I could go to those places that were bombed with atomic bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I had some fear around it. So soon the article about fears is coming to you with Mickey, with the piece on Mickey. Because if you have a fear around something, then that means it's something you should probably look at. I'm also quoting David Snyder here. Those areas where we don't want to look at are the areas we should probably look at. And with that meeting with that priest, I talked to him about my meeting with sexuologists. So by the church in Tarnów, I met a sexuologist, but I don't believe the guy was actually a sexuologist. He also was a teacher in the third high school. So I was reading Lev Starovich, and he was a sexologist who wrote a lot of books. And therefore, I think all of a sudden we could say I have attracted the man who just said he was a sexologist, but I don't believe he was. But he supposedly had an office by the church, so he invited me over there, and he just, we met 3 times. I don't know how many times, but we had a casual conversation, and he asked me if I wanted him to give me a vagina massage. So I didn't want to have this vagina massage, but the thing is, I told about it to this priest, and he didn't ask me any questions. He didn't ask who that man was. It just a question appeared in my mind, like, is it about me? Like, why am I saying this? And I thought it's about other girls, because nothing happened to me actually, but it's about other girls who would be naive to say yes to something like that. So for me, that was really not natural when it comes to priests. Such a reaction wasn't, the response I would receive, that I would expect to receive. I mean, and then was a time when, being a student in Krakow, I lived with nuns, because I lived in a monastery because the rooms were cheaper over there, and because they were cheaper, you had to share a room. But I came for the summer, so all the students were just actually they were home, or they were on holiday. So for the summer, I could have the room on my own. And the story with the nuns in monastery didn't develop very well, because first of all, they seemed to be a little bit mean. They were Karmelitki sisters, very close to Karmelitska Street in Krakow, so very close to the city. It is the city center, and there wasn't the right washing machine. The washing machine was very old. It's called Frania, and it takes a lot of water. And it spoiled one of my dresses that I really liked, and I really looked well in it. So my best friend told me they wanted to collect the money, and they wanted to buy the new washing machine on their own. They as girls, without asking nuns to finance the washing machine. But the nuns didn't agree. The Mother Superior didn't agree to for them to have the new washing machine. And the reason why was because they said that the new washing machine would take too much water. which probably was totally not true because the old Frania washing machine took a lot of water. And my best friend wanted to keep her bag in the corridor, but she was not allowed to do so. And the funny thing is, I mean, it's not funny, but during that time I worked in a strip club, and sister, Mother Superior told me she could do the washing for me in her own washing machine. So I was a little bit stunned, but I just linked it like with, she wanted to see my outfits that I used for strip club. Because, I left the razor in the bathroom because I had the entire floor for me. There was nobody living on my floor. So I left the razor over there, and she just took my razor and it was gone. And I'm like, oh my. And I talked about it with my best friend that, that I had an impression she read my diaries, but that's always was my impression all my life, that somebody read my diaries. And my best friend told me that it's true that Mother Superior could go through your things, and whenever she wanted to keep something private, she would pack it in the box, wrap it with the decorative paper, and she would say, for mom. And she told me that Mother Superior wouldn't open a gift for a mom and wouldn't be curious about what's inside the gift for your mom. So she would sometimes just keep things, private things like that, which actually is a clever idea, a very smart idea, and not really invasive in any way. But with that story, there's obviously more. And I was smoking cigarettes, and the filters, the endings of the cigarettes would end up. I would throw them away through the window, and they would end up somehow magically on Nuns' car. I don't know how. So in the ending result, I was asked to move out, and I also heard a weird conversation of Mother Superior saying, "Oh, she said she wouldn't move out. She did this, she did that." And I stood in front of the door. It was so loud, and I was really like, thinking, this is all not true. It's so made up and so unfair and so immature. It was an older than I was woman, and it was a nun. So a lot of the times, people who worked for, people who are closer to God, people who represent Catholic faith in Tarnów and in Krakow, and my encounters with them, which is show me that they didn't try to be nice. They didn't try to be mature. They didn't try to be comprehensive. They didn't try to show you understanding. They would just, create situations that were, stressful, like with walking through the towel. I mean, I don't think I developed a trauma over this, but, but I think some people could. And in yet another video, I'll be telling you more about another encounter with nuns in Sacré-Cœur, close to Zbylitowska Góra, or in Zbylitowska Góra. Okay, so if you're curious about further events from my book Piglet, if you want to learn more about the way the system is built, if you want to learn more about covert hypnosis, symbolism, and gypsy magic, then drop me a line at lkinga788@gmail.com. And if you want to check out my course Amelia, and if you want to learn more about the way the victims, the personalities, the identities of victims of sexual abuse are created, formed, shaped by language, by experience, by covert hypnosis, by manipulation, then check out the link in the description of this film. So you will find all the info there, and on my website and Facebook, Instagram accounts, and yeah. And if you like this video, hit the like button and share it. So Thanks for watching.